Huh? I'm not calling you. I've not said anything since I said that.
I'm from California in the USA, and I've been a front-end developer for, well, almost 7 years now. So it's been a very cool journey. Can you let me know if you can see my screen?
Yes, we can.
Okay, great. So a big part of JavaScript is Googling a lot of stuff. So when you're ever on your engineering journey after learning, don't be afraid to Google things, and it'll make you question if you're good at programming. But you are. Googling is a part of the process, because I Google a lot of stuff at my job and previous projects I've been on. So today we will be covering JavaScript in ES6, which is one of the later iterations of JavaScript, specifically touching on classes. So the first thing is, what are classes in JavaScript ES6? So classes are a template for creating objects. They hold data with code, and they are special functions. They contain class expressions and class declarations, for example, in the line of code below. So one way to define a class is using a class declaration. And to declare a class, use the class keyword with the name of the class rectangle here. So you see here the class and then rectangles inside of it, right next to it. And how can they be used? So with class expressions, it's another way to define a class. So these can be named or unnamed. The name given to a named class expression is usually local to the class's body. However, it can be accessed via the name property as well. We see here. Class body and method definitions. So this one is an interesting one because there's a lot that can go into it, but for the sake of this class, I don't want it to be too long or boring. I just consolidating it and making it a whole lot smaller. So the body of a class is the part that is in curly brackets. So this is where you define class members, such as methods or constructor. And then there's also strict mode. And this is where the body of a class is executed in strict mode. For example, code written here is subject to stricter syntax for increased performance. Some otherwise silent errors will be thrown otherwise. And then there's also the constructor method, and it's a special method for creating and initializing an object created with a class. And within that is also static initialization blocks as well. And then we also have prototype methods. So here's an example of a prototype method built out. So we have the class of rectangle. So that's a JavaScript class right there. We have an object, which is going to return this line of code, another method. And then there's also generator methods as well. And now we have subclassing with extends. So this is cool because it's very similar to how it is in React as well. I don't know if anyone in this class has used React before, but this is very common within React, where the classes have extenders with this. Let me see here. So the extends keyword is used in class declarations or class expressions as a child of another class. So in the code, we can see that there's a child of another class in here. And if there is a constructor present in the subclass, it needs to first call super before using this, because this will access the global data. So one may also extend traditional function-based classes as well. So I don't know if anybody in here watches Dragon Ball or Dragon Ball Z, but super class calls with super. And so this is Gohan, Goku's son, in Super Saiyan mode. So it's similar to Dragon Ball, where you can enter super mode, which makes you more powerful. There's also super classes within JavaScript. Super class calls with super. So the static keyword defines a static method or a property for the class. So the super keyword is used to call corresponding methods of superclass. This is one advantage over prototype-based inheritance. And here is an example of superclass being used and written out in code. There's also mixins as well, which is another option when creating classes with JavaScript. And mixins are a bit more abstract subclasses, and they're usually templates for classes. And so a function with a superclass as input and a subclass extending that superclass as output can be used to implement mixins. So that concludes my JavaScript classes tutorial. So there's actually a lot that can go into it, but I wanted to just put together slides that kind of on a high level talk about what classes can be used for in JavaScript. So are there any questions or concerns?
So hello guys, if you have any question, please drop your questions in the chat and she'll pick it up from there.
Okay. I don't know. Amaka, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Manuela.
Okay. I think some people joined late. Yeah. So guys, for those people that joined late, instead of the whole chat room to be quiet, if you understood everything she said, just drop it. But if you don't understand, just highlight the part you don't understand so our instructor can just go through it again. So guys, please, if you understood everything our instructor said, just type yes, you understood. If you don't understand, just say no. So everyone, please, we have about 15 people on the call. Yeah, aside from the instructors and the host. So please just drop if you understood on the chat, please, everyone. If you understood, please drop yes. If you don't understand, say no, so your instructor can kindly go through it. So guys, please do that now. Thank you. If you can hear me, please make use of the chat and drop yes or no if you understood.
Yeah, and using classes within JavaScript can be confusing. So if anyone does have questions, feel free to ask away.
Okay, I think the first person just dropped, Kelly. Yeah, she said she didn't understand because she came late. I noticed that a lot of people came late because I think you were before some persons, so some persons came late. So someone just dropped a message on the chat. I don't know if you can see it.
Oh yeah, I can see it. I can actually go over it again.
Okay, yeah, it's fine. You can.
Okay, so I will share my screen again. Let me know if everyone can see what's on the screen. So for those who came into the class late, we're going over JavaScript ES6 classes. So I began asking the question, what are classes in JavaScript? And so in JavaScript, classes are usually a template for creating objects. And so they can hold data with code to work on that data. So classes in JavaScript are built on prototypes, but they also have some syntax and semantics that are, oh, you can't see the screen. Let's see. Okay, let me try to fix that. Okay, can you see my screen now?
Yes, Kelly, we can see your screen now.
Okay, so what I was talking about before were what are classes in JavaScript? And if anybody doesn't happen to know what classes are in JavaScript, you can go ahead and leave it in the chat. But classes are a template for creating objects. And so they hold data within the code. And there are also special functions, class expressions, and class declarations. And so in this example below, we see a class with rectangle. So rectangle is the class that's being created here. Now, some of you may be wondering, how can these classes be used? And this code demonstrates how it can be used. So you can pull the height, you can set the width inside of a constructor. And then the console log will pull the output of rectangle. And here's a class with a rectangle too, and then a constructor within that class. And then if we ran it into the console log, it's referencing rectangle, the name. So the output will be rectangle too. So classes can be used as expressions. So when creating classes, you'll have about 3 to 4 options: class body and method definitions. And there's a few more outside of that as well, but in this lesson, I just wanted to cover specifically class body and method definitions. So the body of a class is the part that is in curly brackets. So this is where you define class members, such as methods or constructor. There's also strict mode as well. And this is where code is written here is subject to stricter syntax for increased performance. Otherwise, it will throw an error. Here we have an example of a prototype method. And then here is subclassing with extends. So with this is very useful because if you ever learn React.js or React Native in the future, creating subclasses with extends becomes very useful because when building out different apps or web projects, it's very helpful to be able to use extends. And so extends is a keyword. It's used in class declarations or class expressions to create a class as a child of another class. And if there is a constructor present in the subclass, it needs to first call super before using this. One may also extend traditional function-based classes. Superclass calls with super. So some people may have came into the class late before and missed this, but this is Gohan, Goku's son from Dragon Ball Z in Super Saiyan mode. So when he's in Super Saiyan mode, that means he's more powerful, he can defeat enemies more effectively. And any Dragon Ball Z fans out there will know this and understand that being more powerful helps. So it's the same in JavaScript. Superclass calls with super. The super keyword is often used to call corresponding methods of superclass. Someone said, go on, I'm all ears. So this one is advantage over prototype-based inheritance. And here's an example of superclass calls with super. So we can see here in the class lion and its extends cat, we see super is called right there. So that is my demonstration on JavaScript classes. So I'm happy to know that Gohan got someone's attention. And yeah, I think the Dragon Ball Super movie is supposed to come out next week here in America. And my husband and I are very excited about it. But yeah, if anyone has any questions, feel free to ask away. And you can ask in the chat, type out any questions, or if you just love Dragon Ball, you can just type that as well. Go ahead and escape this. So I'll stop sharing my screen. Okay, so you're asking, the super function is used to append a function to a class. Yes. Yes. So the super, yeah, you have it correct. So you use the super to append the function to speak to cat. That's correct.
So guys, any question? If okay.
Are there any other instances where you can use it aside from the examples you just showed? Yeah, so you definitely can use it in different instances. Let me pull it up. Yeah, that's a very good question. So I'll go ahead and share my screen again. So this is another instance where you can use it as well. So if you understand the inheritance concept of the parent and child classes, it makes it a little bit easier to understand the super concept. So create a class named model. So here's the class right there, which will inherit the methods from the car class right here by using the extends keyword. So kind of like the person in the class asked before. Wait, let me see the chat. This up again. So just like FA mentioned before, instead of like appending to the function, it's more so extending, if that makes sense. So we have the class here, model extends car. So it's going to inherit what's happening within car. So by calling the super method in the constructor method, we call the parents constructor method, and it gets access to the parents properties and methods. So super, if you're using super as the child, it's going to be pulling everything from the parents properties and methods. So I don't know if that answers your question, FA, but that's essentially what super does. By calling the super method, so the car is the parent and the model inherits from the car using extended. Yes, that's correct. So the car is the parent and the model inherits from the car using the extend and super. Yes, you got it. Yep, that's definitely it, FA. The car is the parent and the model inherits from the car using the extend and super. So yeah, it's a very useful way to code, especially when using JavaScript with React. And they're so similar because once you have a good understanding and grasp on JavaScript, it's very easy to transfer over. Or do we have to write it like this every time? Free to modify. You're definitely free to modify it for sure. Yeah, it's just written out like this in simple, easy to understand terms, but yes, you can definitely modify it for sure.
Okay, yeah, Kelly. Yeah, I don't know if you can hear me. Yeah, okay.
Yes.
I don't know if is it like, is there a possibility that you could like show like maybe like a practical of just like an example? Because I think many of them, they do not really understand, yeah. Although most of them are not really speaking. So I don't know if you could like just show us just maybe one example, right? Like a practical so they can see like what you do it. Is that a possibility?
Oh yeah, that definitely is.
Okay, thank you so much. So if you just show us like an example, like a practical, thank you so much.
Absolutely. So I'll pull up my code editor. And then hopefully that can make it a little bit easier to understand. Okay, so I'm gonna make a new file.
Kelly, are you sharing your screen? We can't see your screen. I don't know.
Okay,
we
yeah.
can't see your screen. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, so I'll share my screen. And definitely let me know if you can't see my screen or not. But so with the super class example, let's say we have a class of cat, and inside of this we have a constructor name. We have this dot name equals name. Okay, cool. So that's gonna access the name on a global level, and then we have speak. So I'm just typing it out. So hopefully it'll be a little bit easier to understand. Let's see, console log. Let's do name. Oops, I'm gonna put the curly brackets in there. Makes a noise. So let's see. I actually want it to be the symbol instead. There we go. Now we're gonna have a new. So this is the part where extends gets introduced. So we'll have a class of lion that will extend the cat. So even though it's extending the cat, that just means that it's getting the data from cat. It's accessing all of cat's methods and properties. So it's inheriting the methods from the class cat. So I'll keep typing it out, extends cat. And so inside of cat, we will have speak again. And let's see, we introduce super into the mix. So if we remember earlier, by calling the super method in the constructor method, we call the parent's constructor method and gets access to the parent's properties and methods. So super is allowing us to get access to the parent's properties and methods. Super speak console. So we're gonna call to the console log to print out. It needs to be printed. Now let's see. Do this. Let's do find the name. Words. Okay, cool. That's looking good. So right now, I'll just comment this. The lion, the class lion is inheriting properties from cat in this line of code right here. And then it's using super, this super method is allowing the constructor to get access to the parent's properties and methods. So in this case, that would be this. So this super is getting access to the parent speak. Oh, I see some comments coming in. Let's see, please share screen. Can you see my screen now? Alawiye? I'm saying your name correctly.
Yes, we can. We can see your screen.
Okay, cool. So that was an old comment. So speak, will it be out the parents' class? Okay, so for that question, you're asking speak, will it be out of the parents' class? It's supposed to be in, so it does seem like it's outside. So in this case, it would seem like, so we have the constructor. So present is actually, let me see. Speak is actually a part of the class cat. Should a super be called after every statement? Is this an exception? That is a good question as well. Should a super, so FA asked the question, should a super be called after every extends? So you actually don't. So the rules basically come down to this in JavaScript ES6 classes. In a child class constructor, this cannot be used until super is called. So in ES6, class constructors must all have super if they're subclasses. Or they must, oh, you guys can't hear me. Let me see here. Can you guys hear me better now?
Yes, we
Okay,
can.
guys, if you can hear her clearly, please just type it on the chat. Yeah.
Hello? Yeah, I don't know why my mic is not as loud as it was before, but to answer the question of should speak be outside the parent class or within. No, that's not the question I was on. I was on the question of should super be called after every extends. And it doesn't have to be. This is just the instance I'm using for this example, but a super doesn't have to be called after every extends. But the super does have to be called if you're using a super does have to be called if you're using this to access the global data. So that is where the super does have to be used. But it doesn't always have to be used with an extend, if that makes sense. So let me go back to, got a little tangent there. So now I'm going to assign a const 1, and it's going to equal new lion. And inside of this, I'm just gonna assign it fuzzy. Okay, cool. I'm glad you guys can hear. Let's see. So I'm going to assign it fuzzy, and then I'm going to get access to the variable again and assign it speak. And if the code is running properly, the console log should show fuzzy makes a noise. Fuzzy roars. Okay, so I'm reading FA's question out loud. So unless I want to access a global data / property using this, I don't necessarily need to use a super. Yes, FA, so that is correct. You don't necessarily need to use a super unless this is being used to access global data. So yes, you are completely correct and right with that.
Okay, guys.
So-
So, sorry, and Kelly, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay. Yeah, as regards this, guys, so please, if you don't understand what you just did, you can say it on the chat, please. Thank you. So sorry, Kelly, you can go on.
Okay, yeah, I was just giving students room to talk. But yeah, FA has been asking very good questions so far. But yeah, the chat room is available. And I hope this helps me typing it out like this in the code editor to kind of explain the super concept. And yes, you were definitely right, FA. Super is only necessary if you're trying to use this to access global data. Because in ES6 class, constructors must call super if they're subclasses, or they must explicitly return some object to take the place of the one that was not initialized. Class. You're welcome.
Okay, I think yeah, Kelly, I think, are you through like with the explanation? So we'll know if there are room for more questions before we wrap up.
Yeah, I'm good. And
Okay.
yeah, I'm good. Thank you for having me. If there are any more questions, feel free to leave them in the chat.
Okay, guys, so just in few, like maybe like 2 seconds. So if I do not see any questions, so we're going to be wrapping up. So guys, if you do not have any question, thank you guys for joining. Thank you, Kelly, Bryant, for taking us today on ES6. Thank you so much. So guys, if you don't have any question, we'll be wrapping up today. Yeah, and if you understood, you can just type in yes, I understand on the chat. So we just have like people like active. Do you get? So yeah. Okay, I think someone is saying something. Okay, so Mutala, do you want to ask a question or you understood? Because you just type in something just now. Oh, okay. It's saying your code is showing error. So I don't really care.
Oh, okay. Code is showing error. I understand, but I want more. We can see your messages to show. Oh, the code is showing error. Let me look this up. It could be showing an error too, because I'm using, let me see. All right, let's figure out why this code is showing an error. So I have speak running here. And someone posed the question before, but yes, the speak is inside of the class cat. Oh, let me show my screen. Yes, you're definitely right. I had that wrong. Let me share my screen again. Yeah, so you definitely were right with that. So speak, I had the curly brackets. So yeah, make sure you have your curly brackets in the right place. This happens so often with coding. So we want to make sure that we have speak within the class cat. And then we have here class lion. Okay, so that's looking good now, where we're supposed to be. So class line extends cat. So we have speak, super speak, that's looking good. We have our variable const with 1 equaling new lion, fuzzy. Let's see here, 1, so it's not liking this. Okay, so now it shouldn't be throwing an error anymore. So it should be working now. So this is a simple demonstration of super extends. And I can also show, let's see. So FA is asking, can I do something like this? Class lion extends cat. Constructor name age size. Super name age size, right? Can I do something like this? Let me check. Okay, so you're saying to replace line 13 through 18, you'd want to replace it with this. Constructor name age. So the only problem with doing it this way, FA, is that we don't have age and size declared in the constructor, unless you were putting this, because I understand what you're saying. So, because right now our class line extends, it's pulling from this information. So I'd probably, instead of having it inside of the lion, just to make the code a little bit cleaner, I would have your constructor age size going into class cat so that we can just pull it, if that makes sense. So I would do constructor name, this name, or because if the way you're doing it with name, age, size, our age isn't, it's not declared in the parent cat. So that's why I wouldn't personally go that route. So I'll put it in the chat. I would declare constructor name, age, size in the parent class. Yes, correct. So you have to declare, yes, correct. So you need to declare it first in the parent before calling it in the child class. But outside of that, you were definitely going in the right direction. So yes, you need to declare it first in the parent. So in this case, in the class cat is our parent. And it holds speak as well. And then class lion is the child of class cat. So in order to pull different information like name, we want to first declare it in the parent class. So yeah, you have that correct, FA. That is correct thinking. Yeah, these are really good questions. Very, very good questions.
Okay, yeah, Kelly, thank you so much. Yeah, so guys, in the absence of no question, I think we are coming to the end of today's class. Yeah, so Kelly, do you have any other thing to like add aside this?
No, this is good for me. I just wanted to go over, it seemed like super classes were the main ones, unless we want to delve in to other ones. Because there's definitely different parts of classes for sure. But I personally think super classes and using extend is very beneficial because it enables to be able to use JavaScript with other frameworks.
Oh, okay, all right. Yeah, so guys, are you okay? Like, do you understand every part? Please, if you do, please just type on the chat before we close. Or if you don't understand any parts at all, like what you just did on a VS Code, if you don't understand the code base, you can just identify, you can say if you understood or not, or if you understand some parts, you don't understand some parts, you can just identify and say it before we close, please. Okay, Efe. Well, apart from Efe, please, no other person. I think we have 17 people on this call. So, Moritala, sorry, I didn't get your name. Anietse, Anita, and Donald, and every other person. Do you guys understand before we come to the close of today's class? Just type in yes or no, so we can just wrap up. Thank you. Okay, yes. Oh, wow. So everybody understood. Okay, thank you guys so much. Thank you for attending to this class. Thank you, Kelly Bryant, for taking us today on ES6. Thank you, guys. Good night, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Great, thank you. Have a good night.
Yeah.
All right. Have a good night, guys. Good night, everybody. Good afternoon, Kelly. Bye.
Yes, good afternoon for me, but good night, everyone else.
Yeah. Good night, everyone. Bye.